Oh, something I was going to talk about. This had been on my mind before this whole thing with the Christmas parade or the holiday parade in Wabasha. But I noticed, I haven't been to Wisconsin for 10 years, I guess. I used to be there once in a while. And it was always, pretty laid back state. But something has evidently changed, and I kind of wonder what's happened there. It seems like every time something like this happens, it always turns out that the people involved have got long histories of violent crime. Well, I don't recall Wisconsin being riddled with violent crime. That's what puzzles me. It gets me thinking that, because it seems like you can't swing a cat in Wisconsin without hitting a violent criminal. And that didn't used to be. It makes me wonder if these people that are involved in this stuff, I'd like to know where they're from originally. I don't think they're local. I think this is one of them cases, which I've seen happen before, where you get people out of large metropolitan areas that are constantly getting in trouble with the law. They finally get paroled, but they move them out a little bit from the metropolitan area, put them in these smaller towns. The theory, get them out of the hood, maybe they'll clean up their act. But they don't. They bring the hood with them. They always do that. So these small towns, or smaller cities, because, like Wabasha is a fairly good-sized town, but Kenosha was there again, a fairly good-sized town, but nothing major, But they end up having to build up their police departments and their whole law enforcement apparatus to a huge number just to handle the people that are being moved in. And they're always disreputable, beautiful people. It would be interesting to know, kind of the history of some of these people that turn up in these circumstances, because I swear they can't be local. I swear this is somebody that has to have been moved in, and with their history, I'd swear they were getting paroled to these small towns. I have seen that happen in Minnesota, because the odds, of you walking down the street and everybody you run into is a criminal, there's something odd there. But even when you see the response when something happens, those police have got equipment that should never have been necessary in a town that size. So I'd swear there's an outside influence there, but it puts a hell of a strain on a small town, rural kind of area, where you have to build up your police department to handle the outflow from the large metropolitan areas. I think they're dumping them. I think they're using small town areas as kind of a penal colony for the people they can't handle anymore. They ship them out. I don't know for a fact. Like I say, I'd like to know where these people are all coming from, because I swear they aren't. I never met somebody from Wisconsin that was a criminal, and evidently they're all now. But that's too bad. Like I say, I've seen it happen in Minnesota. I've seen where they they parole them out to a small town. And they just bring that attitude with them. That's unfortunate, though. But that was a disaster. You know, I won't go into it. I've heard quite a few things about this. Some probably nonsense, so I won't speculate, but they pretty much know who and they know why. But I think I would like to know where these people are all coming from, because I think they're getting dumped on these small towns. You know, because it's a whole different culture that isn't homegrown. That's imported. But when you think of even just like the amount of law enforcement and like parole officers and the whole legal system has to be greatly enlarged to handle this. But it's because instead of taking care of them in the major metropolitan areas, they shuffle them off. But that hardly seems right. But I suspect, you know, I don't know it for a fact, but I suspect if you look in the history of these people, I think that's probably what you're going to find. That most of them originated in a large metropolitan area and were paroled out to these small areas. It just spreads that plague. That's where you got to build walls around them cities to keep them people out. But that's a very unfortunate thing. Society's really going downhill. But it's worrisome because, like I say, Wisconsin didn't used to be that way. And this just keeps creeping. You know, it'll take a while to get here, but I see it even, you know, when I go into Fargo. Fargo isn't what Fargo used to be. You know, it's the biggest city in our state, but it's right on the border. You know, Fargo and Moorhead are kind of joined together. And there's a lot more riffraff there than there used to be. But I really, I can't believe that there's that many violent criminals around. I think, you know, when I think of it, I only know one guy that I know that has actually been in prison, and that was for some stupid drug thing. You know, most people are relatively law-abiding, or they certainly aren't violent criminals. You know, it's the violent aspect of it that's unnerving. Yeah, well, just an observation. But I don't think these are people from these towns. I think this is imported riffraff. That's kind of hard to deal with, but you can't be letting large metropolitan areas dump their problems on you, but I think that's what's happening.